For many players, Season 3 has been an absolute train wreck for Marvel Rivals. Between Jeff Throwers and Black Panther Smurfs, it feels like nothing you do matters and you can't climb. That's why in this video, I'm going to give you my 10 best tips to dominate in Season 3, including what are the best times to play, how to counter problematic characters like Black Panther, and how to always build perfect team compositions, plus more. So we're going to jump right in, starting with tip number 1, some heroes demand counters. But first I want to talk about the sponsor of this video, Rocket Money. Last month, I found out I was still being charged for a subscription that I thought I canceled 6 months ago. That was a massive wake-up call. I needed a better way to manage my finances, and that's when I found Rocket Money. Rocket Money is an all-in-one personal finance app that helps you cancel subscriptions, lower your bills, and create custom budgets and grow your savings goals all in one place. Once I connected my bank account, Rocket Money showed me all my subscriptions in one list, including a few I even forgot I had. And with just a couple of taps, I was able to cancel the ones I didn't want anymore, no hassle at all. Rocket Money also has a bill negotiation tool that contacts internet providers for you and will negotiate for a lower rate on your behalf. That alone makes the app freaking worth it. So if you want to save more, stress less, and actually see where your money is going, you gotta check out Rocket Money, and definitely use my code in the description down below, or go to rocketmoney.com/CoachMills to try it for free and unlock even more features with premium. Once again, special thanks to Rocket Money for sponsoring this video. So there are some characters that have extremely polarizing matchups, Black Panther and Penny included, and these characters, if you don't counter them either with your playstyle or your picks, you will lose the game, assuming these players know what they're doing. So how exactly do you counter these characters? How do you make sure that you can shut them down? Well, let's start one at a time. First off with Black Panther. There's one primary weakness to Black Panther, and that's the fact that he has the uptime problem. I talk about this with a lot of melee characters, but when they're not in and engaging in the fight, they are not doing anything, they are not poking, they are not trading damage, and this means that they are really waiting for this one core moment to use their cooldowns to get a kill, get a pick, and make it all worthwhile. You know, trading long periods of doing nothing for small moments of doing so much that it makes up for it. But the thing about Black Panthers is most of the time that first engagement goes really well for them because players are not ready for them. They are not scouting them. They're not anticipating them. They're not thinking about them. And that's my first lesson for you. When you do not know what the opponent is on, and it is possible for them to be on something like Black Panther, something like Spider-Man, especially when you're pushing an objective and you have no idea of these things. You know, you're pushing on attack into a defensive setup position where enemies could already be anywhere. They could already be ready and waiting for you. You have to assume that they could be on certain characters. Until you know for sure, until you get that perfect confirmation, until you've scouted the enemy team and know exactly what they're on, you need to keep your head on a swivel and you need to be ready to react. You can't give these Black Panthers the first engagement for free because they're going to be able to snowball that tempo, build that ultimate that much quicker. And I also think that something that goes a long way as far as countering characters like Panther and other characters, it can literally be any character in the game, is actually spending some time learning how to play the character. Spending some time watching high-level players play the character. Spend some time playing the character yourself because you learn their pain points. You learn where they're going to set up. You learn where they're gonna sit. Oftentimes, if you can find a BP before he even engages, he's gonna engage, but he's not ready to engage. If you can put damage into him, you can force him to disengage. You put damage into him, you can force him to engage awkwardly or at low health, which might mean that y'all could kill him that much easier. Oftentimes, if the first engagements don't go well with the Black Panther 2, you're more likely to force them off the character as well. I want to make it clear that a lot of the power level of many of these characters rely on the fact that players are not ready to face them right off the bat. I want you to be prepared, especially if you have a character that has a difficulty dealing with some of these characters. Don't let them catch you purely off guard. Now, sometimes you can't make up for all the weaknesses in your team, in the way that your teammates play, and because of the annoyance factor, a lot of people just will ban BP. But I'm going to tell you one composition that is actually impossible to lose against the BP. It's one of the most powerful compositions you can play to deny a BP's entire strategy. So, of course, there's like heavy stun comps, you know, double CC, Bucky, Namor, all that stuff. But I'm going to tell you right now that triple support with an Ultron, 2 tanks, and a character that has high CC is impossible for a BP to dive at all. Like, any BP will tell you this. Basically, you're playing something like Magneto Emma, and then you're supplementing it with something like a Bucky, and then you're rocking 3 supports, one of them is Ultron. And the reason that this composition is so difficult for a BP to dive into is because there's a constant amount of healing. Any person that is engaged instantly gets the burst of health from Ultron. You can throw a drone on them, coupled with instantly bursting their health to a higher degree. In addition to all the AoE healing, the supports can all heal each other. And then in addition to that, Ultron himself can't be a target to the BP. So these characters are just all enabling each other a lot. And you also have a natural bridge between Ultron Ultimate and the powerful defensive ultimates. Like, let's say you're playing Ultron Luna Loki. One of the things you got to understand is that divers all just don't do anything when there's these really long amounts of defensive ultimates going on. They're oftentimes not able to poke safely in these ultimates, so they're just kind of caught waiting. They're waiting a lot. So if you can ever get into a battle of ultimates, these divers don't really do anything. They're trying to get a lot of their value before the ultimates are fired. Like, they're trying to disrupt the cycle or the power of ultimates by getting value in their dive engages outside of ultimates most of the time. So if you could just chain Ultron ult that you're gonna get fast into Luna Loki back into Ultron ult, this BP is just so useless, it's crazy. But enough about BP, let's actually talk about Penny, because this is one that I also think people are losing to a lot. I looked at the percentage win rates of the Penny bunker composition with Rocket, and it's like a crazy high percentage, above 60% win rate, which is just insane. And here's the thing about Penny bunker. It is a hard counter to several types of compositions. So it's a counter to Brawl, because Brawl needs to walk in. If you're walking in as Groot, you're walking in as Bucky, you're walking in as some of these characters and getting in close, you're walking right into the mines. It's hard to get an angle on the mines, so you're just going to take a lot of damage and die. Anything that has to get in close or move into the space of Penny is not gonna fare very well. Another thing is dive. Of course, dive is gonna be very bad because the divers themselves can't even destroy any of the generators, and they have to go in close, which they're also going to get gripped up and hit by stuns. So dive and Brawl are basically out of the picture. This leaves poke, and poke is what you need to swap to immediately. If you ever walk out and you're like, oh, we have 3 minutes to take this objective, no big deal, but you see a Penny bunker, I want you to go back and spawn, and I want you to swap to something that directly counters it and can deal with it. Way too many players will wait 3, 4, 5, 6 fights of losing constantly, slamming their head into the wall before they want to swap off to something that actually has game against it. And that's why they're losing to it, because once you swap, it might be too late. The enemy team might have too many ults, whatever. The thing that you need is 1, long distance damage. You want to be able to trade damage with your opponents without entering their space, because that's where the Penny controls, right? And so this includes characters like Helic, include characters like Punisher. Flyers are very, very good. Human Torch, Iron Man, Storm, anything that's doing damage from a high ground is just going to be completely away from the Penny. And then characters like Magneto, assuming that they don't walk in too aggressively. Keep in mind that the fights can get flipped really easily. If you're winning, you walk in and then you get insta-killed. So take it slow. Make sure you're poking things out. There's also some dramatic swaps that I think are particularly good against this bunker. Characters like Moon Knight and Squirrel Girl are really good at doing damage behind corners, trying to destroy a lot of this utility, a lot of these generators. Very, very good as well. And I know that you don't have to swap for everything in this game. Like, this game is not rock, paper, scissors. There aren't some absolute matchups in every case, but in the case of specifically Penny and also Black Panther to an extent, these are characters that require you to swap around them if you do not want to have a huge disadvantage. Yes, you can beat Penny bunker with some untraditional characters. It's just going to be really, really difficult for you to do. And especially when all you have to do is get that first objective and then they can no longer play the Penny bunker anymore on like the Symbiote map, for example. It's 100% worth your while. Now, the number 2 tip that I got to give you in this video is about baiting and calling certain cooldowns. So you got to understand that in the meta as a whole, what the game is actually about is these super powerful cooldowns that just change the entire game. Like, the entire game is different until these cooldowns are up or down, right? Something like Loki totems can completely deny a Psylocke ultimate, can completely deny a Magneto ultimate. So until these are used, the fight has to be played differently, because you could be winning a fight and then totems heal everyone back to full, and then now all of a sudden they're pushing you back. So if you try to play overly aggressive, without the totems being used, then you're actually making a mistake. This is why if you want to start having consistent value in team fights, I want you to start thinking about the fight in stages. Stage 1, baiting specific powerful cooldowns and of course communicating it. Stage 2, then making a play based on your advantage. Specifically routing in a place, let's say you're doing a soft flank on Psylocke, doing some damage to Loki, he uses greens, and you're not staying in that fight for too long to risk death. You baited out his totems, you dash back to your team, you say no greens, and now when your team actually has advantage and is pushing a fight, now they don't have the totems to just wipe away that advantage. This is also true for certain cooldowns like Emma Diamond, Wolverine passive, even Magneto bubble in general, but the idea is that there is like a deceptive strength and weakness of the enemy team. Just their HP alone is not enough. When HPs can go up or down very, very quickly, I think something that's a really relevant call that you can make is opponents' low cooldowns. When you are going in and your opponents have low cooldowns altogether, your team can make really aggressive plays. But if you're going in blindly, trying to make plays, trying to clutch up, trying to go for an off angle or whatever, when you don't know what cooldowns the opponents have and you haven't made any effort to bait them out, that's how you could easily lose a fight. You know, you run into the enemy team thinking, oh my god, they're low, they're half. Loki totems come up, everyone's full, Emma pops her diamond, grabs you, kicks you to the wall, you're dead, now you're down 1, their whole team is full and you lost the fight because you're playing based on only what you see and not what you know. It also can give you something to do when you're not quite sure exactly who you should shoot, how you should play around these cooldowns, play to bait these cooldowns, and understand that if you did like apply pressure to somebody, like apply pressure to a Loki, and then he pops totems, that's not like, oh damn, I couldn't kill the Loki, he used totems. It's like, I got that value. I want you to start thinking about the game in this way. You're getting resources, you're trading for cooldowns by applying pressure. And if you can especially force cooldowns just with your primary play, you shoot at someone a little bit, you force an Emma Diamond. You shoot at someone a little bit, you force a Magneto bubble. That's value. And then you don't have to necessarily instantly follow up on that value. It's just you got that value without trading cooldowns of your own, which is really, really important. Now, the next question I get a lot about Rivals, and in Season 3 especially, is how should you ban? What is a valid ban? Am I supposed to be banning based on what the pros ban, or the meta, or just my personal annoyances, or what I main? How do I ban? Now, it seems that every season there are certain characters that require a ban, or everyone is universally banning. This season it has been Wolverine, and it will probably consistently be Wolverine for the foreseeable future, but they are just characters that require too much to solve. Like, they are threats that require too many solutions, too many, players working together, too many counter swaps in order to solve. And I think that for some people, Black Panther is that. For other people, it's just Black Panther is annoying and certain characters are annoying to play against. And I'm going to tell you right now that banning characters based on annoyances is actually perfectly valid, but recognize that if you can come up with a game plan to still win against some of these characters, it can make it so that that ban phase is a little bit cleared up. You have more flexibility about what you ban, and then you could ban around your mains a little bit more. So if you're playing a character that is a threat in itself or has really polarizing matchups, you could ban the character that shuts you down so that you can get more value while still being able to have a game plan against others. Like, you can basically constantly just ban certain characters every single ban cycle if you don't want to ever game plan against them, but then you're gonna be really lost if they ever make it through the ban phase. And also, like I said, there could be more things that you could ban that maybe it's a specific matchup that is bad against your main. That's going to be less likely to be possible to ban if there's this other list of I have to ban these characters all the time. Now, whether or not that's easy or hard is dependent on the meta. But to give you an example, my mains are tanks and DPS, right? And for DPS, I play Namor Bucky, and for tank, I play Thing Magneto. So, well, I do think that Wolverine is above the power level that he creates a lot of problems, more than I think I could solve by myself. Characters like Black Panther, assuming that I actively peel them as Bucky, Thing, or Magneto, I think I can help my team solve those problems. But a really powerful torch is something that I can't directly interact with, so I'm actually more likely to ban torch in this meta. Now, if you're a cracked Hela player, right, you might not do the same thing. You might be like, I can handle that torch. I can sauce up that torch, but I'm gonna need like a peeling DPS or a peeling tank if I want to deal with Black Panther, and I'm not always gonna have that on my team, so I'm just gonna ban it. So that's just something that you should kind of think about. And while I don't think that's necessarily a perfect way to ban, I would suggest trying to be active in the banning process instead of just letting your team pick for you and then being super frustrated in the middle of the game when what you wanted to actually be banned wasn't even attempted to be banned. Now for number 4, I want to talk about poorly built compositions, because a lot of people are doing this, and I think this is a really bad thing to do, and it's causing them to lose games, but they don't know why a certain composition is being built well or being built poorly. How can you avoid this problem? So the first thing, this is the number one mistake I see: triple support with one tank. We just talked about how triple support can be really good against BP, and I think it's a powerful comp. Why is triple support with one tank bad? It comes down to the fact that you can't build defensive ultimates fast enough. I've seen this way too many times where a triple support composition with one tank like Magneto, a character that's not even trying to trade a lot of damage, is up against a Groot, a Strange with 2 supports, and that Cloak and Dagger is popping ultimate when no one on the other team even has 60%, and you're just gonna lose this trade so much. You're losing the ability to build your ultimates. Now, this problem becomes even bigger if you have a whole bunch of main healers or mass healers in your composition. So if you're playing like Invis, Luna, and Cloak, and then you have one Magneto, none of y'all are getting ultimate, and it's just really, really bad. You're just like gonna lose so many fights. But if you offset 2 of those with like a Loki and then an Adam Warlock or a Mantis or an Ultron, it could be better. But realistically, you want 2 tanks in that triple support composition if you want it to actually function. You're making a comp that actually builds ultimate at a reasonable rate and can trade them with your opponent's ults. Now, on the flip side, I've seen compositions that want to actively brawl and engage and don't have enough heals. So like Emma plus Groot plus Mr. Fantastic, characters that want to get in, trade damage, and they're going to take a lot of damage too. You could also include the Thing in there. These are compositions that are really greedy for heals. They ideally want multiple main or mass healers, or at least one really good one that is primarily focusing on healing and not doing damage. But if you are running some really weird composition that just doesn't provide that, let's say you're rocking an Adam Warlock as your second support with an Invis, that's not going to be enough heals. It really isn't. Your team is going to take a ton of damage, and you're not going to be able to heal them up. This is really important because you could feel like you're doing everything right as a brawler, but you look at your support compositions and it's not going to support what you're trying to do. This means that you could swap, you could convince them to swap, but if you keep trying to play in the same way, you're going to constantly be low, you're never going to be healed up, and you're going to be dying in situations that you feel like you shouldn't be dying in. Another thing that people do often is that they play compositions that all want to do different things. They play comps that have some divers, and then they have some pokers, and then they have some brawlers. While there is some overlap here and there, it is important to understand that there is value in double downing or doing the same things or enabling the same things, right? If I'm playing a diver, I'm playing like something like a Black Panther, having another person that dives in that baits cooldowns with me, that forces CC or forces attention, it's gonna make it a lot easier to do my job. You know, if I have a Cap jumping in there or I have a Venom jumping in there, a Black Panther is gonna get way more value. But if I'm a Black Panther alone, when my entire team is playing back, poking from range, I'm the only one that is gonna force a lot of these cooldowns out. No one is gonna need to use Mantis Sleep or Luna Freeze except on me, because I'm the only diver. So when I go in, I'm gonna get hit by all of those things. Understand that if you can force enemies to kind of be over exhaust a certain type of resource, it's a lot easier for you to make a composition flow well. So let's say you have a hero pool as a DPS, one long distance poker like Jean, one diver, someone like Iron Fist, and then you have a Lord Captain America lock in. Maybe you could go pick that Iron Fist. The idea is that you are both going to be taking on pressure and attention. Y'all could both be on the same targets, and there is synergy built into what the playstyles each of y'all are trying to accomplish. Now, a big question that I get often is, when is the best time to queue? What's the best size of a party to queue in? How do we get the most optimized ranked games? So as far as time is concerned, I'm going to be honest, because we're in the summer, there isn't really a perfect time besides not late at night, Friday, Saturday, and super early morning Sunday. that's the time where people come on and they don't care. Like, they really don't care. Weekdays are typically going to be better. I think it just has to do with people partying, people being out late, things like that. When we're talking about school times, I have personally found that weekdays in the morning when people are in school is the best. I know some of y'all are in school, so you're not going to be able to take advantage of this, but I'm telling you, that's the best time to queue. We're not in school time right now. We're in summer. And then as far as party size, this is important. Some people say, okay, should I solo? Should I duo? Should I squad up? There's a lot of value in squatting up or duoing and doing the same things and getting value. But here's the thing that I will say. If you are playing in a duo or a trio, only go to the size of the squad or only squad up at all if you are making a conscious effort to synergize and work together well. Your pick should be synergized. Your play should be synergized. If you are not doing those things, if you're not playing either synergistic characters that have an actual game synergy or they just work well together, and you're not communicating, trying to double down on plays, going on off angles together, trying to playmate together, then the other duos and the other trios are going to be doing those things and you're not. They're going to be playing synergistic things like Hulk Namor, and they're going to be coordinating their dives and coordinating their engages. Hulk dives in the back line while Namor flanks with squids. And if you're not doing those things, then you'd be better off alone. So it's important that when you stack and when you duo, when you squad, when you do any of these things, you are making full use of the fact that you know each other, the full use of the fact that y'all can play together and practice together and communicate consistently. That is the way that you're actually going to make full value out of playing with a team. Now, number 6 is a big one. How to build a hero pool. How do you build that perfect hero pool? How many characters should you know? I'm going to tell you exactly how you should build it right now. The first tip I always give everybody is that you cannot build a hero pool too broad. You should limit yourself on how many characters that you're actually playing and consistently practicing. And the reason that you do this is because there's not enough hours in the day. You cannot get enough reps on a character. If you're playing 12 characters and you're playing 20 hours a week, how many times are you playing each character on each map? How many times are you playing each character against certain other characters? You're really just not giving yourself a lot of reps. So I would tell you to minimize your characters. And I think these are two kind of general models that I would suggest. The first one is that you have a main role and then you have a flex in 2 of the other roles. So let's say your main role is DPS. You play 3 DPS in that role. You play Bucky, you play Namor, you play Hela, right? And I would suggest that within that role, you pick characters that can make up for the weaknesses of other characters. So, like, if you have a Hela and you're really good at Hela, but Hela's not great against dive, you got that Bucky so that if you're dove too hard, then you can swap to the anti-diver that is Bucky. That's kind of the idea. But in all the poke matchups, Hela's going to remain supreme. So that's just like one little idea here. So you have your main role, but you're not always going to be able to play that main role. So what I would recommend is that in the roles that you are pure filling on, you pick meta characters specifically, and you just learn one. You just learn the best one, or you just learn one that is very, very good. You're not, you know, flexing to some niche. Oh, I'm only going to play Jeff the Shark when I play support. Oh, I'm only going to play Penny running it down, running it down any situation when I play tank. No, that's pointless, because the idea here is that you mainly want to play your main role, and you try to play your main role as much as possible. But when you have to fill, you're trying to actually round out a composition and make the composition work, right? So you want to play characters that are flexible and meta. So I would say learn a Luna and then learn a Magneto. And then you have your 3 main characters that you play in the DPS role, but when you have to fill, you're playing characters that can fit into a wide variety of compositions, characters that are not going to be a liability, and characters that are going to, most importantly, preserve your win rate. Because we do not want to be popping off on our 3 DPS characters, having a 70% win rate, but then whenever we flex, we only win 1 game out of 10, and then we're like, wow, every time we fill, we lose. Well, yeah, because you're playing these really weird characters that you don't really know how to play, and they're not really flexible in the composition. They're not even good in the compositions that you're actually being forced to fill in. And so you are going to lose. You want to try to keep as much win percentage. Like, honestly, if you could just make it to where when you're filling, you can keep barely a 50% win rate, that's fine. You'll get all your wins when you play your main role. Now, the other way that you can fill out a role, or there's a lot of ways, but this is just my recommendation, is the more flexible style where you have 2 heroes that you know in each role, and then you can kind of fill in whatever you need to fill in. I think that this can work if you like to be a flexible character, but remember that if you want to be a true flex, you need to be good at all these characters. I want you to only flex the characters that you feel like you have the capability to carry in this way, so that you're actually playing a good amount of tank, DPS, and support. You're not just only filling in very niche situations, you're specifically filling what the team needs. Don't do this if you're not that confident in a lot of your characters, because then you're just going to be losing games that you feel like you could have won on a different character, and that's never good. And then my last suggestion is try not to learn more than 7 or 8 characters. That's too many characters to know. That's too many characters to get repetition with. I would not recommend that. That's just way too much. Now, the number 7 thing that you need to learn how to do in this meta, and for pretty much every meta going forward, is about how you interact with defensive ults. Defensive ults are extremely powerful, and if you don't have a game plan for them, then you're gonna be losing a lot of games. Like, how is your main gonna impact a fight when there is 24 seconds of invulnerability, Luna, Loki? What do? Do you kill through? Do you have the way to kill through? Do you know how you can kill through as Namor? Do you need damage boost? Do you call for it? How do you kill through as Magneto? What's the percentage you need to be at? How do you do it? How do you set it up? What are your ways to interact with these defensive ultimates? Now, you might not have a great way. Maybe it's to run away, but that also means stay alive. Make sure that you're not caught up in your opponents being overly aggressive when they can't die through the defensive ults, and you're alive so that afterwards you can actually have an impact. And while you're doing it, build your ultimate safely so that you can turn, you know, that time frame into ultimates. Remember, you could still build your offensive ultimates, your defensive ultimates while these ults are going on. You're still doing the damage, you're still doing the heals, so it is important. And then, of course, if you're unable to track any ultimates, tracking your opponent's defensive ultimates matter a lot because it can allow you to make a game plan. I was actually VOD reviewing someone a little while back that there was a Psylocke that double dashed in after going invisible into the enemy team, popped her ultimate, and then the Luna popped theirs. So the Psylocke canceled and then got chased down and killed because she had no cooldowns. Why was that a really, really bad thing? She didn't track the Luna ultimate that was really, really obvious and telegraphed. And then when she tried to get away, she didn't have any cooldowns to get away because she all in committed to it, hoping to get these kills. But if she was just trying to bait out the Luna ultimate, she could have hid, saved her cooldowns, maybe only used her invisible, popped her ultimate, baited it out, and then double dashed away. The idea there is that she's using her ultimate specifically to bait rather than hoping and praying that her ultimate will kill the entire enemy team. If you don't know, then you shouldn't make these super proactive plays. So if you ever want to be aggressive, it's your job to make sure you know what defensive ultimates are up and what your game plan is. To bait it early, to wait till it's over, to try to bait it in the neutral so that you can clear the way for your ultimate. What's your game plan? How are you going to play it? These are all important questions. If you don't even think about what your character is going to do around these defensive ultimates, you're already setting yourself up for failure in this meta right now. Number 8, let's talk about stats. And in general, I say stats don't matter. A lot of people will talk to me about accuracy stats, healing numbers, damage numbers, mitigation. None of the stats matter for the most part, except for 2. Number 1 is your deaths relative to your team is probably the most important stat. If your death number is dramatically higher than anyone else on your team, then that is definitely a mark against you as far as your positioning, your risk tolerance, how you're making plays, and you're just dying too much. If you're not alive, you can't make plays, you can't follow up on plays, you can't build ultimate. Being alive is one of the most important things. That's the most important stat that matters, and I'd highly recommend that if you're ever lost about how to improve, go VOD review yourself, look at all your deaths, find deaths that could have been avoided, because there's almost always a death that you yourself could have avoided. And if you're saying, wow, no one healed me, well, your other teammates survived where you died, so why are they alive and you're dead? Find that answer and you will improve. The other thing, if you're specifically a DPS player, typically is final blows. Final blows do matter. They are important. And if you're someone, a DPS player that cannot get consistently high final blows, or you have very, very, very little final blows, most of the time you're actually not taking enough risk. You're playing too safe, or you're playing too linear. You're not taking good angles. And a lot of times you're not actually going for plays that can generate you advantage or definitive advantage like a kill. So whether you're trying to bait a cooldown, like a powerful one like Loki Totems, or they're trying to finish someone off, you're just being generally just too passive to, I'm just going to exist here without trying to do anything definitive. Yes, you're not going to die a lot, and your stats will probably be high because you're not dying a lot, but are you actually impacting the fight? Are you actually carrying fights? No. So this is a really important stat to look at. But for the most part, stats don't dictate how good of a player you are, and oftentimes they are subjective to how the game played out. If you won the game by playing in a particular way, then don't look to the stats to try to find some fault in that, because your way might have not farmed stats, but it still won you the game. Now, number 9, a big question that a lot of people ask me is how to become consistent, because they feel like they're super inconsistent. They play really good sometimes and really terrible other times. I do say that hero pool is a really, really big one. I talk about not having overly large hero pools. We talked about that previously. Very, very important. But there are other things that impact your consistency as well. Number 1 is start position. I think this is a really easy one, and it's literally how you're sitting, how far away from your TV or your monitor, where your mouse pad is at, where your mouse is, where your keyboard is. If you ever feel awkward, whether you're playing on console or PC, sometimes you need to take a break, stand up, stretch, try to put everything back to where it normally is, and then start again. Because slightly being off, it's kind of like going to drive a car, but the car seat was moved, it's too far forward, or you're sitting in the car seat a little bit weird, and it just doesn't feel comfortable, doesn't feel normal. That is exactly what happens in gaming. Another thing is build a warm-up routine that works for you, something that is consistent, something that's easy, something that you like to do. I highly recommend building a warm-up for you. It's not going to look like everyone else because it depends on the characters you play, but I want you to feel mechanically consistent on all your characters. This could be a combination of aim training, could be a combination of practicing ultimate juggles with Hulk in the training room. It could be anything, but keep it consistent. Try to put yourself up to 85% of your maximum mechanical output. I say don't do 100% because sometimes I've known people that will warm up for 2 freaking hours. That's huge diminishing returns here. Get yourself good enough, go into ranked, you'll warm up the rest of the way there, but still every single day have this warm-up routine that at least gets you 85% of the way warmed up. And then the last thing to become consistent is know your matchups. If you have a consistent hero pool, you can start to really notice the characters that you have trouble with. How should you be playing each matchup? What should you be doing against each ultimate? What is the best way to play against it? If you know your matchups, if you know how you're supposed to play them, you could become way more consistent, because if you're playing a matchup in the wrong way, then you could be consistently losing to that character over and over again. Maybe you're taking a 1v1 or forcing a 1v1, but that's not actually what's favored for your character. Maybe you're trying to shut down that person's ultimate when in reality, it's not actually something that you should consistently be trying to do. Learning about your matchup more, studying your characters, studying guides, getting VOD reviewed, getting coached, that will all be very helpful for learning your matchups and increasing that consistency. But the last thing that I get asked a lot is players will come into my chat and they'll say, hey, I'm this rank. Is this a good rank? I'm this rank. Is this a good rank? And here's the thing. I really want to make this clear that your rank does not define who you are or how much you've improved. We see the rank system changing a lot. Sometimes a rank that was easy for you to get last season is hard for you to get this season. But I want you to know that if you're better than you were yesterday, then that's fucking amazing. Like, worry about how you are developing internally, how you are getting better at learning and understanding, and how the value that you're getting in certain matchups is becoming more reliable and consistent. Don't worry about what other people deem high rank, low rank, good rank, bad rank. At the end of the day, we are all just chasing self-betterment. So if you're better than the you of yesterday, or you're better than the you of last month, that's good enough for me, and it should be good enough for you too. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know if you learned anything in the comments down below, and let me know what videos you want to see next. Smash the like, subscribe. Thank you, and I'll see you next time.